Catford in southeast London, and we're wanting to ask people directly, people from different backgrounds, about whether they're aware of this development towards the cashless society using microchip implants.
And it calls us all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond,
to receive a mark in their right hand or their foreheads.
And that no man might buy or sell save he that he had the mark or the name of the beast or number of his name.
It's just a book, isn't it? I haven't got a lot of time for the Bible. To me, that's just words. Doesn't really mean anything, you know.
The Bible clearly lets us understand that the mark will be for trading, for buying, for selling. The choice will be, are we willing and ready to die for what we believe in? And if it means to die and to not accept the mark, then that is what will have to be done.
It seems to me that some people think it just makes sense to have a chip rather than be something to do with the Bible.
Sure. Can you see any link at all? With
well,
that passage and
obviously,
that?
but I think it's a major coincidence.
I don't think it's possible that someone 2,000 years ago could have prophesied about any scientific developments today. I don't think God has any place in science.
So what it's trying to say is that if you have that in your body, that you maybe you're showing the mark of the. It's not. I don't really believe in coincidence so much. I just disagree. My personal opinion, I just don't think that has any relation to what the financial system is. Why they would put it into barcodes? The number, how that number has any relevance? If they did, it could be coincidental. But if there was some, I don't know, allegiance within the secret allegiance of the financial system around the world who are doing whatever to do this, I think there's a lot easier ways to do this and track our information and track what we do. To do that by what we do in our cash machine or what we shop at Tesco's.
Yeah, it was really interesting seeing the various reactions, and you could see that even the people who argued against the connection, like were aware that it was like a huge coincidence, as they called it. They just didn't have any answers for it.
Yeah, I was also impressed, actually, how many people, just out there on the street, had a grasp, had a really good understanding of the whole concept, even though sometimes, they had no religious background at all.
Yeah.
And there are a few people I spoke to who could see that there really would be pressure on them to take this chip. A chip that the marketers and makers of it say they would never force on anybody.
Yeah, right. Should we keep watching?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is a fine line between that. Well, I don't see the relevance in that. But I think what you're right. No, it's not your opinion. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I know that we are being tracked and we are being traced and our information is being sold and it is being passed. But whether this has any relation to that, I don't think so. My personal belief.
There's no way I'd want to put the chip into my body if it's been said before that it's going to be part of some beast or whatever else it's going to be. So I wouldn't want to do it.
I would totally see where this would tie into the whole Revelations Antichrist thing.
But I could see definitely how people would think that a microchip could be construed as a mark of the beast.
If it comes down to that, the chip is the mark of the beast, and because of my Christian faith, I will never wear it.
The Christian faith and several other faiths have intertwined into it a mark of the beast concept, which is generally seen these days and accepted as the microchip. It's going to have a massive effect on people consciously and in their communities. There's going to be a rejection on that level alone. If I was to be cut off, I still wouldn't take the chip. I would find a community, no matter how hard it took, that didn't require that level of submission.
Yeah, what I found most interesting about watching this is that the people who could see the issues most clearly were usually not religious. They're oftentimes on the fringes of society, the kind of people that Jesus really would have associated with. And well, I met these street punks, these people in Utah, and I barely mentioned the implantable microchip with them. And what they said was pretty good. Maybe we can check it out and check it out. Yeah, sure. Have a look.
Oh, the computer chip that they're gonna put into us.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I think about that one. If you read the Bible, dude, it says you cannot buy, sell, or trade without the mark of the beast. It's so easy. It's convenient. It's right there. Beep. Oh, everything's right there. Beep. And I will never ever put a chip in me or in any of my children.
Oh no, that's
I don't want to be marked.
man.
The people that actually have the chips and the cards, you would not believe how much that they actually waste. They're actually gonna throw away enough to us unchipped people. We can actually survive, dude, without chips.
Because money is just paper shit. It's nothing. Why would I trade like paper shit that you can't use? There's no use for it. Like, you can't make it into anything. You can't grow anything with it.
This is not your property. This is property of the United States government, and this is a federal offense.
Money, 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 all I ever hear these days. Every song that the DJ plays, talking of a similar situation. Ain't got none and got to get some.
Now you can't even tell it was here. Alright? What is still here is us. Us. Human beings. The people who need to take care of each other instead of taking care of yourself.
I met someone at an alternative gathering who was like an atheist, and he did much the same thing. He brought it up without me even mentioning it, you know, as soon as I mentioned the berry chip. And it still just amazes me how people who, you know, you wouldn't even consider to be religious can see the obvious even more than the supposed experts on the Bible.
There's an interesting passage in the book of Revelations which talks about the mark that is placed on people, where nothing shall be bought or sold without this mark. I'm not a Christian. I don't even believe in God in the conventional sense of the word. However, as with all ancient texts, the Bible deserves to be looked at carefully and to see if there's anything in it that might be of interest historically. I'm hoping a time when maybe the genuine message of Jesus will come through.
Did you see that? Did you see that? I'm hoping for maybe, this is an atheist saying, I'm hoping for the genuine message of Jesus to come through. I mean, that is a classic.
Yeah, you can imagine Jesus going around and gathering his disciples from people like this, you know? Yeah. They're all a bit radical in one way or another. Hardly a suit and tie amongst them.
Yeah, I think the suit and ties, they're too busy trying to change the message to something like worshipping God on Sunday.
I don't know a lot about the Mark of the Beast prophecy, and I don't know a lot about this chip thing, but from what you've told me just then, it seemed pretty similar. No, I'd never take a chip, I'd never microchip myself.
I think it's kind of interesting, like talking about people being chipped in the future. I engage with wild food. Engaging with like the natural world, wild plants, does make you wild in the sense that you want to rebel against standardization, manipulation, control, all these things, which I think people are seduced into because they're being manipulated, because the world is so complicated, it's so stressful. Using plants in that way and relating to people in that way just makes you, you will never be ripe for manipulation. You will always rebel.
I'll never be chipped voluntarily. They'll have to hold me down, they'll have to knock me out. Not taking the microchip could end up meaning that you would starve to death. I understand that.
I'm not Christian myself, and I'm not that knowledgeable about Revelations, but I know that when they talk of a mark of the beast, it's for buying and selling, and everyone in society must bear this mark to operate and function. But there needs to be some resistance to this agenda. On a practical level, if it does end up that most people have got the microchip and there is a few resistors still out there, I think they will be hunted down. They'll be targeted for elimination. I think I would refuse the very chip under all circumstances, even if there was the threat of imprisonment, the threat of death.
People from all religions know that something's wrong in these times. This is the most serious chess game that's ever been played. This game is so cunning, it is so deceptive. You can't say that this is of human origin. It is that in depth. It's the decisions that you make, and whether you succumb to the system and just say, look, the pain and the misery that I'm feeling, I'll succumb to, taking the very chip, and so I can access food. Whereas for me, I'd rather starve and eat rocks before I took it.
That is great. It is starting to show that there are actually some individuals out there who've got some character that seems to be so lacking in today's society. The kind of character that would literally be willing to die before doing something that they know is wrong.
It seems like a lot of other people, though, have really missed the need to, you know, count the cost.
I don't know that they have missed it, though. I mean, you know, how many of them started backpedaling when we raised the question of what will you do when you can't buy or sell?
Yeah, the kind of people who have what it takes to refuse the mark, I think they're going to have to be, like, maybe fanatics, if I can say that, like idealists who would be ready to give up everything, change their whole entire lifestyle before they would go against their conscience.
Maybe we messed up by not giving people the next chapter in the book of Revelation to read. You know, the one where it really hits home how seriously God views this whole concept of the mark?
Well, this guy knows what it's about. You can tell by what he's saying. But let me read it out. It says, "And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, 'If any man worship the beast in his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb.'"
Yeah, the Lamb in that passage is referring to Jesus. This isn't the kind of lovey-dovey stuff that most churchgoers would associate with God or Jesus, is it? But it's right there in the Bible.
Maybe people should stop telling God how to do his business. And if he says there's going to be a day when he's had enough of mankind's disrespect for him, then so be it.
Yeah. And let me read on. "And the smoke of their torment ascends up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, whoever worships the beast and his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name."
Yeah, from that, it seems that accepting the mark is the point of no return for mankind. And I think we're on the verge of that point right now in human history.
Not the line in the sand, it's the line in the concrete. That is where it's drawn. I think that is where the soul is lost. It's as simple as that. It is a choice of serve the mainframe or mammon or whatever you want to call it. But there is obviously a definitive line.
Actually, I did let that one marketing guy who I interviewed in the cafe earlier read the passage, which is probably why he fell to pieces so much. My guess is that he'd never even heard of that passage before, and he chose not to accept it, probably because it was easier to stay in denial.
I don't know. I think that's very negative. I don't like to think that these things are negative. I wouldn't want to read that paragraph then think that's a negative thing. Just to take that leap from reading a warning sign to actually taking it to factual facts that it's happening is a massive leap of... I don't know. For me, I think that's a massive bit. I can see it as a warning, and there's loads of sections which, you know, this is what we experience in this time and whatever, and take heed of this. But I don't think it's that translatable to now, I don't think, for me.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the verse about not taking the mark of the beast is followed by a verse which talks about people dying for their faith. I mean, that's what it's coming to, you know, and that's what people don't want to think about. But here, let me read it.
"Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commands of God and the faith of Jesus. And I heard a voice from heaven say to me, Write, Blessed are the dead which die in the Lord."
One of the problems that I found about most religious discussions concerning the book of Revelation is that it's all about matching up symbols and dates or trying to convince people that your church is the one true church. It never seems to relate back to the teachings of Jesus. But when you recognize that the mark of the beast, you know, is all about buying and selling, there is an obvious link. Jesus, you know, commanded his disciples not to work for food, not to even think about where their material needs would be, you know, come from, or you know, how they'd be met. But where is there anyone today actually teaching people to obey the teachings of Jesus? You know, Jesus made it clear that the choice would be between serving God or mammon, or God and the mainframe, as that guy Greg put it earlier.
Yeah, there's a guy here in the UK who's been living like without money for more than a year now. And he's not really the religious type, but he's got it really spot on about the buying and selling. And he seems to understand that it may cost us our lives in the end.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, and I feel like sometimes the soldiers of peace aren't as brave as the soldiers of war. And that if you If you see the soldiers of war going into battle to prepare the day for what they're doing, we all need to be a little bit braver. We all need to stand up and be counted and be heard. I think we all, myself completely included, need to be braver.
I've been living for the last 12 months without money. Where we used to find security in friends and family and the greater communities we lived in, we now see security in notes and coins. When we buy and sell things, we're saying, I'm going to help you, but I want something in return. What better reason to help somebody than the fact they actually need some help? Like, do we actually always need to get something in return? Think about it. Nobody goes to your dad like, well, you know, I cooked dinner this evening, that's £5. If we all work together, share the resources, not only would it be better for the environment and would we use less resources, it's much better for us as people.
Yeah, Mark and some of his friends recently put on an alternative gathering in Bristol, which coincided with Buy Nothing Day. I think it was called the Free Economy Festival, and it was a fantastic day because everything was done for free. No money changed hands, no one was paid for what they did, and even the food itself was free because it was rescued from supermarket bins.
Yeah, they fed more than 1,000 people, and there was still food left over. So it was a really good illustration of those what those street punks that you interviewed were saying about how you could survive on what the people throw away.
Here's some footage of the gathering.